Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's 7 o'clock. We're going to get started with some preliminary announcements and welcome thoughts on this spring day. I know everybody else is anxious for summer, just like me. So thank you for spending your evening with us. We have a wonderful topic and a wonderful speaker. A very hot topic, I might say, that those of us around the state get a lot of questions about: SSI, SSDI, and benefits. We're going to learn about all of it tonight. We have a speaker, Barbara Judah. She's from LEAP, Linking Employment Abilities Potential. While we're letting people in, I just want to make a few announcements once again. We are recording tonight's session. We ask that everyone turn off their videos. Please keep your mics muted. We have a very large attendee list tonight, so everyone will have a chance to enter your questions on the chat function once we get started. And again, thank you for joining. We're still letting a big group in tonight. Welcome for those of you who are still joining. I'm going to do a few announcements while we are letting folks in. I want to explain who I am. I'm Amy Clausen. For those of you who don't know me, hello, welcome. I am the Northern Ohio Family Support Specialist with Ohio Family to Family. And I'm listing for you here our website. I invite you to check it out, and our Facebook page. For those of you who are on Facebook, we have a very active, informative Facebook page. Check out all the trainings, events, and important information for families in Ohio. Also, you have access to our flyer on this slide, and I want to make note that I'm only one of 3 with Ohio Family to Family. We're all here to support families who have children and youth with special needs and disabilities. We do that in a number of ways. One-on-one support, as well as with trainings just like tonight. I'm very lucky to work with my colleagues Lynn and Marion, as they are seen down below here at the bottom of the flyer. So if you're not in Northern Ohio and you want some support, information, resources, or get connected to some trainings, please give any one of us a call or email. And just as a reminder, if everyone could please mute your microphones and turn your video feed off, please, for the evening, that would be very helpful. Another part of our program at Ohio Family to Family is our Parent to Parent program that's run by Jenna Wells. And I just want to pause for a moment to explain, what is Parent to Parent? Well, it's for any parents statewide who want to be matched with another parent, family member, or caregiver. Someone who has similar needs to you, but maybe has a little more experience. The support parents are voluntary. It is a free service to be matched. It's free to become a support parent. And we are so lucky to have a program that's modeled and supported from Parent to Parent National. So it is a national program that we brought here to Ohio. We hope you check us out and spread the word to families who might need another parent match. Very quickly, I want to highlight the team. I don't work alone. I don't like to work alone. We have many friends here in Northeast Ohio and in the state, namely Wendy from Live Special, Laurie Kowalski from Down Syndrome Association of Northeast Ohio. We work with Cuyahoga County Board of DD, Friendship Circle, Milestones Autism Resource Center, Medina County Board of DD, Summit DD, Portage DD, and Autism Society. We thank you so much for being such wonderful partners to bringing transition boosters to Ohio. And I don't want to forget, before we get started here tonight, please take a look at our upcoming transition booster sessions. This next one in July is very unique, but very necessary. And we have our National Families Voices Program Manager, Nikki Montgomery, who's going to center the voices of families of color who have children with special needs and who are going through transition to adulthood now, talking about some of their disparities. So check that out in July. We hope you attend. Also, Thursday, September 29th is on housing. That one is going to be new because, guys, it's in person here in Independence, Ohio. From 6 to 8 p.m. If you're local, please come check us out. You're going to be able to speak to some of our local housing agencies and nonprofits. And then in November, we're going to highlight college and careers, a huge topic that our local Amy Harker from Northeast Ohio Educational Service Center will be presenting. Check it out. We hope you'll attend, and don't forget, before you leave today, we need your input. We hope these beginning announcements are
You muted yourself.
Yes, for some reason, some things keep getting muted, so thank you for that. Again, another small reminder, please turn off your videos and mute your microphones. And Laurie and Wendy and I are going to be monitoring the chat box. Put your questions there. And at this time, I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to our speaker, Barbara.
Oh, okay. 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 Good evening, everyone. So I hope everyone can see my screen. And just a little bit about myself. My name is Barbara Judah. I'm the manager of benefit services at Lee. And I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about SSI, SSDI, and some work incentives. Okay. Okay. Supplemental Security Income. This is SSI. The Supplemental Security Income SSI program provides monthly payments to adult children with disabilities or blindness who have income and resources, adults and children. I'm sorry, the screen is a little bit in my way. Okay. Who have income and resources below specific financial limits. SSI payments are made to people age 65 and older without disabilities who meet the financial qualifications as well. So basically what the SSI program is, it's a need-based, income-based program that Social Security provides to people with low income or little or no resource or assets. So who is eligible? Well, there's two kinds of eligibility criteria. You have first the non-financial criteria, and then you have the financial criteria. And we're going to go through both of those tonight and talk a little bit about them. So the non-financial criteria. To be eligible, an individual would have to be in one of the following categories: age 65 and over, blind, meaning statutory blindness, and that's blindness according to the Social Security's definition of blindness, disabled, and that means to have a physical or mental impairment that results in the inability to do substantial gainful activity. We'll talk about what substantial gainful activity is, and can be expected to result in death, or has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. So that's a whole mouthful I just said. But basically, these are the three categories that a person would have to be in one of these categories to be eligible for SSI. And yeah, so let's go to the next one. Okay, the non-financial criteria: must be a U.S. citizen or a non-citizen, lawful and permanently residing in the U.S. Okay, so we're going to move on to the financial criteria. The financial criteria, basically, Social Security looks at a person's what kind of income, looks at their income to see if they're eligible for SSI. Again, I said SSI is based on need. It's a need-based program. So they look at 4 different types of income. They look at earned income, unearned income, in-kind income, and deemed income. And we'll talk about each one of those categories. So just so you know, and I'm sure everyone knows, income is money, goods, or services that are generally received by the person who wants to apply for SSI. Okay, earned income. Earned income can be wages received from a job, and these are usually wages or net wages received from self-employment. So it's wages received from a job or net wages received from self-employment. It would include tips, bonuses, and commissions received as well, and also shelter workshop payments. Unearned income would include any other Social Security benefit that that person may be receiving, pensions, disability payments, unemployment benefits, or cash from friends and relatives. In-kind income. This is in-kind income doesn't necessarily have to be cash. It could be food, it could be shelter, or both that an individual will receive for free. So the example I would use for that would be an adult child that lives with their parents. If they're receiving any, they're not paying for their fair share of the food or their fair share of the shelter, the housing, and they're getting that for free, living with their parents, Social Security would consider that in-kind support when determining their eligibility financially for SSI. And the last category is deemed or deeming income. For Social Security purposes, deeming income is the process of considering another person's income and resources to be available for meeting an SSI's claimant or recipient's basic need of food and shelter. So again, a child under the age of 18 that lives with their parents, Social Security believes it's reasonable to assume that that parent is going to pay for some of the child's living expenses or basic needs and food and shelter. So what they would do, Social Security would do in that case when determining eligibility for that program, they would deem some of the parent's income and other the parent's income in the household to the child before determining if they're eligible for SSI. And income can be deemed from parent to child, or it can be deemed from spouse to spouse as well, because it's reasonable to assume that if a married couple is living together, that they're going to share the living expenses and income that comes into the house. So the financial criteria when determining a person's eligibility for SSI, Social Security uses sort of like a calculation, and they have some income exclusions. Some income is excluded, meaning not counted or disregarded. So, for instance, the first $20 of any unearned income is disregarded. Example, an individual receives $200 monthly from a Social Security disability benefit. It might be a SSDI benefit or SSDAC, which is Social Security Disabled Adult Child Benefit. So Social Security would disregard $20 of that income and not count it against the SSI applicant, which would make the countable unearned income $180 from the $200. And then there's an earned income disregard. The first $65 of earned income, and remember, earned income is any income received from a job or self-employment. Social Security would disregard the first $65 of that income. For my example, I have individual earns $150 a week from a part-time job, which amounts to $615 each month. And then they would disregard the $65 from the $615, which they would only count the $550. So the countable earned income amount before any other disregards is $550. Other financial criteria for SSI, there's a resource asset limit when you apply for SSI. So an individual must have assets or resources below $2,000. Couples must have assets or resource limits below $3,000. So when I mean couples, I mean a couple who are both applying for SSI. Resource or assets examples are your checking accounts, saving accounts, any IRAs, cash on hand, burial plots. Those are just some examples of what a resource or asset Social Security would take a look at. Now, I just went back. Okay, so that it has to be $2,000 in total. That would mean in total, any asset total. Would it be checking, savings? If you have a checkings and a savings account, it have both together would have to be below $2,000 in order to be able to apply for SSI. Okay. For SSI, the maximum benefit amount an individual can receive on SSI, and for 2022 is $841 per month. This amount usually increases with the COLA, and the COLA is the cost of living increase every year in January. This amount can decrease because it's based on a person's individual living arrangements. And so there's several categories of living arrangements that Social Security would place a person in when they're applying for SSI, when they're eligible for SSI rather, and to determine what their SSI payment would be. Okay, so that is my slides for SSI. Are there any questions? Lori?
We do have a question. So if a child is 16 years old and lives with his parents and both parents work, what is the child eligible for?
Depending upon the income of both of the parents and what income is deemed to the child. It would depend if the child is eligible for SSI. So remember, if both parents are working, then a portion of that income would be deemed to the child. So it just depends on what the income is. And we're talking about a child under 18, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question is, what is the equation for figuring out if a child lives at home but is charged rent?
What is the equation?
Yeah.
So there's no equation. If a child lives at home, then and the child and the parent, and we're talking about an adult child over the age of 18, comes to a reasonable agreement, just as if the child was a tenant of his parents, and they developed a rental agreement that the child would be paying out of their SSI. So there's no set limit amount for that. In other words, if a child is 18 and they live at home and they're not paying rent or their fair share of the living expenses, then Social Security will reduce that SSI check by 1/3 because they're receiving that in-kind support, which they count as income, if that makes sense.
There's another question. Well, a few came through, but the next one kind of goes off that. What
Okay.
living arrangements are necessary to avoid a reduction of the $841?
So the living arrangement, so that to avoid the reduction of the 1/3, the child would have to be paying either their fair share of the living expenses, if that's possible, or paying rent to their parents, an amount that they have agreed upon, which would not put a hardship on that child being on SSI. So for instance, the SSI limit is most you can get is $841. Of course, you wouldn't say I'm going to charge my child $700 a month for rent, because that would put a hardship on it. But if it's a reasonable amount for the rent, you can write up an agreement. Nothing has to be formal, a rental agreement, and turn it into Social Security, and then that would suffice to keep that 1/3 from being deducted. The other way to do that would be to take all of the household expenses, add them all together, and then divide them by the number of adults living in the household, and to see if that adult child is paying their fair share of rent. That's what Social Security would do. If the fair share of their fair share of the living expenses is more or puts a hardship on them when they're receiving SSI, then they would automatically assume that that child is receiving in-kind support because they can't afford to pay it, and they would still reduce it by 1/3. So I hope that answered the question.
We got lots of questions. What if the child is 20?
It would be the same thing, because anybody who's receiving SSI and is living somewhere, it would be the same situation. Living somewhere for free, they're not paying rent, they're not paying their own living expenses. Short of, Social Security would determine that they're receiving that in-kind support. So they're receiving support from someone, they're allowing to live them in their home for free. They don't have to pay rent, they don't have to pay any utilities or living expenses. So it would be the same situation. If they're 20, they would still reduce that check by 1/3, unless there's a rental agreement in place or that 20-year-old is paying their fair share of the living household expenses.
All right, what happens if the house is in a third-party trust?
Oh, geez. Okay. If the house is in and who's responsible for the living expenses? It's in a trust. So the SSI recipient isn't paying anything towards the living expenses. Am I correct in assuming that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Said the trust rents to the SSI recipient. So the trust owns the home and
The
the
trust,
SSI recipient pays to the trust, I believe.
the
We
trust.
can come back to
Yes.
that if you want to.
Yeah,
Let's think on that because that may be a gray area
Yes, yes.
that we can't answer, but maybe I'm gonna suggest that we get back to you on that. That's a really good question. Whoever asked that.
I know I skipped over a question that was about, I think it was food, was it food stamps? Did we miss that question?
yes. Are we going to talk about food stamps at all?
I can take a question.
Or food stamps eligibility, that was the question.
Okay. I don't have that in my PowerPoint at all. But I could take a question or we can hold that question to the end.
Okay. Should we hold that till the end?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay,
Let's just take one more question, if you don't mind, Barbara.
absolutely.
Okay, so repeat one more time. Charging a tenant rent who is over 18
Mhm.
that lives in the family home with parents. Because someone just asked that again. So review it one more time and then add to that, do you factor in food into the equation for reporting eligibility to SSI?
Okay. So a child who is 18 or over, adult child that lives at home with their parents can receive the maximum amount of SSI if they are paying either their fair share of the household living expenses, which would be all of the living expenses for the house. So the utilities and the rent or mortgage divided by the number of adults in the household. And that would be the child's fair share. So that child could receive the maximum amount of SSI if they're paying their fair share. The other way that that child can receive their maximum amount of SSI is if they are in a rental agreement with their parents, just like any other tenant. They just happen to be a household of their own, a household of one living within their parents' household. And if they pay rent, they come up with a total amount and pay a rental agreement that doesn't put a hardship on them. They could actually.
Everyone has to pay you 4 coins.
Nice.
Mom's the only one with coins.
Yeah, we don't have any money, so we don't have to pay you anything. Like
You still get two.
You still get 2. Like you
Okay.
can still activate that again.
Excuse me,
Does it
if
take this
everyone
way?
could please turn off their mic.
So you can
Thank
go
you.
back-
Except eventually people get more
you can
money.
only put one on.
Hello, if everyone could please mute, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Barbara, take it away to SSDI. Thank you.
Okay, Social Security Disability Insurance. That's what SSDI stands for. It is the program that provides monthly payments to adults and even certain family members that have worked and paid Social Security taxes on their earnings into the system. And into the system, I mean by into the Social Security system. Again, who's eligible? Two kinds of eligibility required criteria, non-financial and financial. The non-financial criteria is the same criteria as the SSI program. So to receive, in short, to be eligible for an SSI, or for a Social Security benefit program, you must be in one of these categories. Age 65 and over, blind, meaning statutory blindness, or disabled. And we went through that definition. That definition is the definition that Social Security uses for a person having a disability. The non-financial criteria. There's a little bit more added to the non-financial criteria when you're applying for SSDI. You must be a U.S. citizen or a non-citizen lawfully and permanently residing in the U.S. And then an individual must have worked long enough and recent enough under the Social Security system to qualify. This means that the individual must have earned the required number of work credits to be eligible. Work credits are based on total yearly wages from employment or self-employment, okay? So an individual can earn a maximum of 4 credits each year. For the year 2022, a work credit is equal to $1,510 in wages or self-employment income. So when a person has earned $6,040 in 2022, they have earned their 4 credits for the year. In short, you only can earn a maximum of 4 credits in a year. So if you have a really good job and you earn $6,040 in January, in the first month of 2022, you've earned your 4 credits for the year, and you can't get any more. The non-financial criteria. The number of credits overall that are needed that a person needs to be eligible for SSDI depends on a person's age. So I put in a couple examples just to give you an example. An individual that is 23 years old or younger can qualify for SSDI if they have earned 6 credits in the 3-year period after the onset date of their disability. Now that's a mouthful. What that actually means is a person who is 23 can actually get an SSDI benefit, which is usually higher, I would say usually higher than the SSI benefit, if they have earned 6 credits in the 3 years after the onset of their disability. So that means they've worked and earned, I didn't do the math, I should have, but those that they've earned was 6,018. So it's a little over 18,000 in the 3 years and paid into the system before the onset of their disability. The second example I have, an individual that is between 24 and 31 may qualify if they have 3 years of work, which is 12 credits that they have earned out of the past 6 years, between 21 and 27 years old. So if, as you can see, the younger you are, the less credits you would need to qualify for SSDI. Anyone over the age of 31 must have, that says 2 credits. I'm sorry, I omitted the 0. It's 20 credits in a 10-year period immediately before the onset date of disability. What that means is those 10 years of work has to be right before the disability of onset. It can't be lifetime. So it's within the 10-year period before their disability started. Okay, to move on, the financial criteria. The only income that is considered to determine eligibility for SSDI is earned income from working or self-employment. So that there's no resource or asset limit when you are applying for SSDI because Social Security Disability is an insurance program. It's not based on need. So Social Security doesn't care how many houses a person owns, how many cars, how much money they have in the bank. They only are concerned with how much that person is earning from hasn't earned income from working or self-employment. That income must pass the substantial gainful activity test that we talked about before, of individual can be considered. So substantial gainful activity or SGA limit cannot be exceeded to qualify for SSDI when you are applying. The SGA amount is based upon the nature of the disability. So the SGA amount increases each year with the COLA, cost of living. For 2022, an individual who is not blind, the SGA amount is $1,350 per month gross before taxes. Social Security always looks at the gross amount and not the net. For an individual who is blind, the SGA amount is $2,260 per month. And as you can see, persons who are blind have a higher SGA because they just lobbied for a higher SGA and were awarded. Their SGA is a little higher. Again, there is no asset or resource limit for SSDI. A person can have as many resources as they like. As the SSDI is an insurance program and it's not a needs-based program. Okay, that's SSDI. Did we have any questions on SSDI that we wanted to answer?
There were a few.
Okay.
Laurie, may I first ask Barbara just to
Sure.
say one more time, reiterate the difference between SSI and SSDI. One's income and one is insurance.
Right. SSI, supplemental security income, is based on need or little resources or assets. So it's basically a program to give to someone who has little income or no income at all. It can supplement income as well if you have a little bit of income, reduced income. SSDI is a Social Security Disability Insurance Program. To qualify for that program, you would have had to earn credits, paid FICA taxes into the Social Security system. And those are taxes that come out of your paycheck every time you get paid. You probably see the FICA taxes that get taken out of your paycheck and paid into the system. You have to have earned the required number of credits according to your age to be eligible for that program. And it's basically like I said, it's an insurance program. So it's basically when a person becomes disabled or has a disability and applies for that benefit, they're basically just pulling down some of the money that they have already paid in the system, if you want to look at it that way. It's an insurance program. It's not based on need, and it's not based on your assets or resources.
Perfect, thank you. Now we can take some questions.
Okay.
Okay, one of the questions was that, are you talking about the Ticket to Work program?
Will I talk about that today?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can talk about that. Yeah, at the end. Absolutely, I could take a question about that.
Okay, and then the next one would also probably be at the end. It's talking about SSI for a minor. But specific to SSDI, somebody asked, who monitors whether a person can move on to SSDI from SSI?
So in short, that answer is Social Security should be monitoring that when a person moves from SSI to SSDI. When you're always supposed to, Social Security is always supposed to pay out the highest benefit that a recipient is eligible for. That doesn't always happen, and sometimes the beneficiary themselves has to bring it to Social Security's attention that they're now eligible for the benefit, but that is how it's supposed to work.
Okay, and what is the SSDI benefit? Is there an amount?
No, that benefit is determined by your, it's actually a average of your wages that you paid into the FICA system, a calculation that they use. They take an average of what you earned in the last couple years, the last 10 years or whatever work requirements. So it's the average of your wages. SSDI benefits doesn't have a maximum or limit amount. People get different amounts. It's not like SSI where there's a federal benefit rate and there's the most anyone can get.
Okay, another question. It says, so SSDI is only if no longer working.
SSDI, you can be working. Work has a dollar amount, which is called substantial gainful activity that's attached to it. So if a person is earning below $1,350 that has a disability, they can apply for SSDI. You can't be earning above that amount to be eligible for the Social SSDI benefit.
Okay, next one is my son gets SSI because he has mental health issues that he was born with. When doing our SSI recertification, the lady said that he earned enough to qualify for SSDI. However, his disability was something from birth. So how would he qualify for SSDI?
Because he paid enough, he's worked and earned enough credits, and now he can transition to the SSDI program. The criteria to be eligible does not look at when the disability happened. That's not true. Let me take that back. For SSDI, you only have to have your disability 5 months before you receive a cash payment. So if he had the disability at birth, he's already fulfilled those 5 months. And he's eligible because he's earned the required number of credits, and now he can sort of pull that money back out of the system and get the higher benefit.
Okay, can a young adult disabled child collect SSDI from a parent's work record?
Absolutely. That program is called Social Security Disabled Adult Child, or sometimes it's called a child benefit. It's when adult child before the age of 22 had their disability before the age of 22, and they have a parent who is either has a disability themselves, deceased, or retired, and receiving the benefit from Social Security. That adult child then can, as long as they're unmarried and have had their disability before the age of 22 and received a Social Security benefit, they can pull that SSDAC benefit or Social Security Disabled Adult Child benefit from their parents' work record. Okay.
I think that answered the next question, which was, I understood as an adult child can get SSDI if a parent dies. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's actually called SSDAC. SSDI is the program where the person is getting the benefit according to their work record. SSDAC would be an adult child receiving a benefit from their parents' work record, deceased, retired, or a parent who has a disability themselves who's receiving SSDI.
Okay, what is the minimum they can receive on SSDI?
There's no minimum. There are a lot of dual beneficiaries where a person may receive SSDI SSDI, and let's just say that person receives, if they receive SSDI in the amount lower than the SSI federal benefit rate of $841, then they can receive SSI as well. So there's no minimum. It just depends upon your wages and the FICA taxes that you paid into the system.
Okay, and then another one was, please repeat what you can't earn above on SSDI.
$1,350, that's gross before taxes. That's for a person, an individual who has a disability who is not blind. And that's for the year, this year, 2022. It usually increases every year with the cost of living increase.
Okay, somebody asked which parent's work record?
Which parent's work record?
Mother,
would-
father, does it matter?
It doesn't matter. It could be either parent, whichever parent who is retired or deceased or receiving a disability themselves. Then it could be either parent. If both parents are retired, then usually they would give the child the SSDAC payment from the parent who's receiving the highest, that he could receive the highest amount from.
Okay.
Mhm.
Parents only or guardians too? Can they use a guardian's work record?
A guardian's work record. That's not a,
If they're a parent, right?
yeah, if they're a parent.
Only a
yes.
parent.
Right, but,
Only a parent, yes.
okay. But not if they're non-parent, not guardian parent.
No.
Okay. Should we let her go on and then we'll read the rest of the questions?
Yes, because you
Okay.
guys will all
Go ahead.
keep talking after she gets through the rest of her PowerPoint. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to talk about working and receiving SSI benefits. Usually there's a myth that a person that receives SSI cannot work, go back to work, or earn income, and that's really an untruth. An individual can work and receive SSI benefits to supplement their wages or their self-employment earnings. It is very important that a person receiving any Social Security benefit receives a benefits analysis. I'm going to put a plug in for it, or work incentive planning service before they return to work. What that is a service in which someone, a benefit specialist or a work incentive plan practitioner, will sit down with you, a person who receives SSI, and just let them know what impact work would have on their benefits. It's very important that they have one of those. I'm going to put a plug in for that. This tool can aid a person in making decisions around the best employment situation for them. Okay. Okay, so working and receiving SSI benefits. The short answer is income from working reduces the amount of the SSI check. That's the short answer. Any income that a person receives, besides a couple of income disregards, and we'll talk about those, will affect the amount of an SSI check. Because remember, we talked about earlier, SSI is based on need. So if you're getting any income from any source, that income could possibly affect the amount of that SSI check. The long answer is Social Security uses a calculation that determines the amount of the SSI cash benefit a person is eligible for when they begin working or return to work. An individual's SSI cash benefit amount can change from month to month based on the amount of income a person earns from working. Okay, so I know this looks a little bit like, oh my God, what is she showing us? I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an example of how income is treated when a person is receiving SSI. Okay, so if you look in the first column, it's a person that's not working. Of course, they're not working. The base amount they can receive in SSI is $841, and that would be the available income available to them. I also have a person working 20 hours per week at $10 per hour. Social Security uses 4.33 weeks to determine what or estimate what that person would be getting per month if they take into account months that have 5 weeks in them. Okay, so I use the 4.33 weeks to show for our example. This person in scenario 2 would be earning $866 per month. So the way Social Security would treat that income, they would first look at that income and disregard an earned income exclusion of $20. Remember, that earned is actually unearned income exclusion. I don't know why I say it's earned. Okay, that was a mistake. It's an unearned income exclusion. We talked about the unearned income exclusion when applying. If a person is not receiving any unearned income, such as Social Security or any other income that's unearned, Social Security will take that $20 unearned income exclusion and apply it to any earned income and disregard the first $20 of the earned income. The remainder would be $846. Then they would disregard $65 for an earned, their switch, that's what it is, an earned income exclusion. I'm sorry, their switch. So the $65 is the earned income exclusion, and the $20 is the general income exclusion. That remainder would be $781. So in this scenario, you see that this person doesn't receive any unearned income. Social Security would disregard the first $85 that they would earn from work. The remainder would be $781. Then what Social Security does is they would reduce the person's SSI check $1 for every $2 they earn at work. So essentially, they would only count half of the person's earnings when they go to work against them to determine what their SSI check would be. As you can see, I just simply divided the remainder of earnings by 2, and it came out to $390.50. The third step in the calculation would be the $390.50 would be subtracted from by the most anyone can receive on Social Security, which is SSI, I'm sorry, for $841. And then that remainder would be the new SSI check, $450.50. Oh, sorry. Okay. So you would then look at, they would then, if you were to look at this calculation, you could see that the person has more available monthly income because they're getting their entire earnings of $866 plus a reduced amount of $450 in SSI. So their new available monthly income is $1,316.50. So as you can tell, in you looking at this calculation, which is a little bit, sometimes it could be a little bit difficult to follow. But if you look at the calculation, the person actually would benefit from going to work 20 hours a week part-time because they'll have more monthly income than they would have just receiving the SSI. I also did the calculation for a person working 40 hours a week. And as you can tell, if they work 40 hours full-time at $10 per hour, the person would still receive a reduced, still received a reduced amount of SSI at $17.50. So it would be benefit a person on SSI to go to work and earn some earned income. So before we go, I'm sorry. Before we go to the work incentives, are there any questions about the SSI calculation?
I don't think there anything pertaining to that right now.
Okay. Okay, so working and receiving SSI benefits continued. There are some work incentives that are available to a person when they're receiving SSI to also help bring down some of that income and enable that person to have more of their or retain more of their SSI check. I only listed a few to go through in the sake of time. Wow, it's 7:56 already. Okay, so the work incentives I listed was the student earned income exclusion and impairment related work expense. Student earned income exclusion. This is for students, this work incentive is for students regularly attending school in an approved program that's approved by Social Security who are under the age of 22, unmarried, and not considered the head of household. The maximum amount of the income exclusion that can be applied in the year 2022 is $2,040 per month, but not more than $8,230 per year. This amount usually increases with the COLA as well. So a person who is on SSI, who is a student that regularly attends school, can earn up to $8,230 a year and not have anything happen to their benefit. I mean, well, not lose their benefit. It would be disregarded. That $8,230 can be disregarded. Impairment-related work expense. The cost of an item or service that is related to an individual's impairment and allows them to work can be subtracted from their countable earnings. This cost must be paid by the individual and cannot be reimbursed by a third party. So impairment-related work expense sort of works like, if you will, a tax deduction. It would be anything a person needs for their disability, but also allows them to work. The example that I always use is a person who takes paratransit bus service to and from work, and they need that service because of their disability. They could take the cost of that transportation and ask Social Security to consider it as an impairment-related work expense. If it's approved, and usually it is, that is I had a lot of clients who had that work expense approved. They would Social Security would disregard that cost from the person's countable income before they do the calculation to determine what their SSI check amount would be. Those were the two working incentive that I had for SSI. I think I'm just going to go right into the working and receiving SSDI and then probably take questions at the end because we're running out of time. So working and receiving SSDI. An individual can work and receive SSDI benefits. It is very important that a person receive, again, a Social Security, that receive any Social Security benefit, receive a benefits analysis or work incentive planning. Okay. So working and receiving SSDI. The short answer is earnings must stay under SGA, currently $13.50 for a non-blind person. If they're below $13.50, there's no impact to the SSDI benefit. So when a person works that's on SSDI and they return to work, it's not, that SSDI check is not treated like an SSI check. With SSDI, you either get the entire benefit check or none of the benefit at all. What that means is if you work below the $1,350, then you're eligible for the entire check. If you work and earn above the $1,350 and you don't have any work incentives to sort of bring that income down, then you're not eligible for the check. So in short, the $1,350 determines whether or not you're eligible for the check. And there's a few work incentives that you would go through before Social Security looks at that $1,350. The long answer is Social Security allows an individual to utilize several work incentive stages. The first one is the trial work period, or the TWP. The second one is called the extended period of eligibility, or the EPE. And the third stage, after the above two stages, if the individual earnings are above SGA, then the benefit will terminate. If the person's earnings are below $1,350, then they would not. They'll just continue with no interruption. And we'll talk a little bit more to explain that a little bit more. Okay, the trial work period. The trial work period, or TWP, helps an individual enrolled in SSDI and an SSDI benefit sort of test whether they can work. It's a test. It's a free test to work. So usually when I meet with a consumer and they're just starting out work and they haven't used any of their trial work period, I tell them, this is your opportunity to try to make as much money as you can, because during the trial work period months, that money is not counted against you, and it's a free test to be able to test your ability to work. So those months are not accounted against your SSDI. So during the trial work period, an individual can earn any amount of money and still receive their benefits for that month. The trial work period consists of 9 non-consecutive months. Those 9 months have a dollar amount attached to them. The dollar amount also increases each year with the cost of living. So for the year 2022, a trial work period month is valued at $970. This means that if a person returns to work and they earn $970 or more gross in a month, then they utilize one of their trial work period months. But if it's below the 970, then those they haven't utilized and they still have the entire 9 months available to them. They're 9 consecutive months within a rolling 5-year period. And I just said, any month where the individual's gross earnings are above the 970, or that an individual works more than 80 self-employed hours, is considered a trial work period month. Okay, so once a person has used their 9 months of the TWP, the next stage of working and receiving SSDI that they would enter into would be called the extended period of eligibility, or the EPE. The EPE begins in the month immediately after the trial work period months end. The EPE is considered a safety net, and it lasts for 36 months. During the EPE, an individual will receive their benefit for any months that they gross earnings below the substantial gainful limit amount, which is that $1,350. And so what this means is this person can go in and out of pay status depending upon how much they earn from work. Again, during any months the gross earnings are below SGA, they're eligible for their SSDI cash benefit. Any months that they're above SGA, they're not eligible. So during the EPE, you can go in and out of pay status without having to submit a new application, which brings me to reiterate how important it is to report your earnings when you return to work and you're receiving any Social Security benefit, but especially for SSDI. That way they'll be able to track when you're supposed to receive a check during the EPE and when you're not, and a person wouldn't be able to incur an overpay. So during the EPE, The first month a person has gross earnings over the SGA limit, that individual has now entered into their what's called their cessation period. The cessation period is a period of 3 months in which Social Security will allow you to work above SGA and still receive your SSDI check. The cessation period consists of what I just said, 1 month, which is the cessation month, and 2 grace period months before that individual's benefits will cease. If cessation happens during the extended period of eligibility, then benefits will cease. They will not terminate. And if the person were to fall back below SGA, the $1,350, then their benefit could be reinstated without a new application only during the EPE. If the individuals, and I just said that, so okay. All right. So before we go into Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities, that is almost my last slide. Maybe I'll just go through. Is there any questions about SSDI before I go through Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities?
Well, Barb, this is Amy. We have quite a number of questions, so
Okay.
perhaps you do a review of this and then share with everybody your contact information.
Yes, ma'am.
Because as you reminded me, you do serve families and individuals all over the state of Ohio.
Yes.
So I know we had a question earlier in the chat, how do I make an appointment with Barb? So go ahead and finish up and then we'll have more time for their questions, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities. It's really underutilized benefit to a person who has a disability who receives Medicaid, and would be a benefit to a person who has a disability, receives Medicaid, and wants to return to work. The Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities looks like and feels like traditional Medicaid or the SSI Medicaid that a person is receiving. This category of Medicaid allows an individual to retain their Medicaid benefits and obtain up to $13,233 in assets, as opposed to the $2,000 limit that you have with traditional or SSI Medicaid. So with this category of Medicaid, when a person returns to work, I have a lot of clients that want to go to work and they're not necessarily worried about the SSI check. They just want to retain their Medicaid. This is an awesome benefit that would allow them to retain their Medicaid and have more assets. This category of Medicaid works, like I said, the same way traditional Medicaid works and has the same benefits. The only difference is that people with the income limit beyond $32,208 annually may have to pay a small premium for the coverage. And I've been meeting with clients for a lot of years now. The highest premium I have seen for Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities thus far has been about $120. So that's not bad per month if you're working and earning a higher income for health insurance. I know my health insurance is a lot higher than $120 a month. So I think it's just a great benefit, and anytime I can advertise it and give people information about it, that's what I really try to do that. So eligibility for Medicaid buy-in, you must be 16 to 64 years old. Reason being, at 65, a person becomes eligible for Medicare, and then you're no longer eligible for Medicaid in some instances. You must be disabled as part of the Social Security Administration or as determined by the Ohio Medicaid, or eligible under the Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities medically improved category. So in short, if you ever receive, you don't necessarily have to be receiving a Social Security benefit to be eligible for Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities. If you ever been determined disabled by the Social Security Administration and just not receiving a cash benefit, maybe due to work earnings, you could still enroll into this program. You must be employed and paid work, includes part-time and full work, and you must meet certain financial requirements, including a monthly income less than or equal to the 250% of the federal poverty level. People with higher incomes for Medicaid buy-in can still apply because there is also a $20,000 income disregard that can be applied to help you to be eligible. So it's a great benefit for people who return to work and need to retain their Medicaid in order to work and have it for their health care. Okay, so I did want to share a few slides about the agency that I work with. So these are the slides: LEAP, about LEAP, Lincoln Employment Abilities and Potential. The services and programs that we offer. We have an independent living service, the benefits assistance service, which is the service that I manage. We also have employment services for consumers and employers. We have an adult adaptive recreation program, community education and advocacy. So we, the people at LEAP, we are committed to serving the whole person. And so we offer all these services. Some upcoming events that LEAP is having, we have April 12th is the Youth Leadership Forum informational meeting, and that might have happened already. Okay, and then April 24th, we are having someone speak about guaranteed community-based accessibility and affordable housing. So that is a training that we're going to have that's available on April 24th. And then we also are offering our Youth Summer Work Experience program. We still have slots available if anybody is interested in having their youth come to LEAP and get an awesome summer work experience. The PowerPoint contains the information for Kelly Camlin. She is the person in charge of the youth work experience this summer. So her information is in the PowerPoint, and I believe my information is going to be shared in the chat. So if you don't get a chance to get this information, absolutely reach out to me and I can connect you to Kelly. For all events and activities, including our adult adaptive recreation program, you can visit our main website, and our event calendar will let you know and give you information on everything we have coming up. There's also, I believe, a calendar on there for all of our adaptive recreation program events. Okay, that's my spiel. Questions?
Thank you, Barbara. A ton of information. It's hard to digest it all at once. So you guys listening today and watching and reading, you have to hear this more than once. It's not just a one and done. And we encourage you to reach out to LEAP and Barbara for more information on your specific needs. Very important to do that. So Laurie and Wendy, I know that we have some questions that are unanswered, and we don't want anybody to leave without taking our survey. So please check out our evaluation. But as far as the questions go, I want to take one because I've been dying to hear the answer to this one, Barb.
Okay.
Back in the day, we used to hear a lot about the Ticket to Work program.
Yes.
What is that? does it still exist? And did you talk about it already?
No, I haven't talked about it already. The Ticket to Work program is a program that Social Security offers. It used to be back in the day, people would receive a paper ticket every month. So you would have this paper that says you have this ticket that you could assign to an employment agency or or someone like Opportunities Ohioans for Disabilities, someone who can accept your ticket and sort of help you through the stages of finding work. And Social Security would pay that agency, and then your benefits could possibly be protected while you're looking for that work. So now they don't hand out paper tickets anymore. You're just supposed to magically know that you have this ticket every year to be able to assign to an employment network, if you will. Also, the benefit analysis and the work incentives that we talked about are part of that Ticket to Work program as well. When a person returns to work, it's an awesome tool to use when you are returning to work and sort of have a safety net for your benefits, for your Social Security benefits as you return to work.
Awesome. And they can call you to do the benefits analysis.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. Laurie, Wendy, what other questions do we have ready for Barbara?
I have a question from way back, and this might be something that maybe you should just touch on, and if they have specific questions, they can contact you. But we had a question on food stamp eligibility.
Okay. And it's just a question about what is the eligibility for food stamps?
I guess.
Okay, so food stamps are a needs-based, income-based benefit. They're given to a person with little income or no income at all, little resources or no assets at all. So they're based on need. So any income that you have besides food stamps that come into your household would affect the amount of those food stamps. Also, a person would have to be okay, so if a student, here I go into the eligibility. If a child lives at home with their parent, they're not eligible for food assistance until they're 22 or older. If that same adult child lived in their own individual home at 18, then they would be eligible for the food stamp. And the reason being that, again, Job and Family Services rules believes that a child that's under the age of 22 who lives with their parents can possibly receive food from that parent. So, yeah, that's basically the eligibility in a nutshell.
Barb, here's a question about SSI. If they are pulling SSI from a parent's benefits, does that affect the other siblings who may also be disabled? Or will it affect the benefit amount of siblings who may be under the age of 18 and the parent has died?
Okay, so let me see if I got the question. If a person is pulling a benefit from a parent who has died, they will be receiving an Social Security adult disabled child benefit. We're talking about a child over the age of 22. Are you asking me, would that affect the other children in the household that may be disabled in receiving a survivor's child benefit from that same parent?
I believe so.
No,
Or there's another question. Okay,
No.
sorry.
it would not. It would not affect their benefit at all.
What if the sibling is under the age of 18?
If the child is under the age of 18 and receiving a benefit from the deceased parent, then it would be a child survivor's benefit. Because remember, they would have to be 18 or over to receive the Social Security disabled adult child benefit. They're not yet an adult, so they're receiving a survivor's benefit from the parent.
Okay.
Is there an earning limit for SSDAC?
It's the same earning limit as the SSDI, $1,350 per month gross.
Is there an age limit when it comes to when an adult child can try to get SSDAC?
18 or over. But you must have been determined to have a disability by Social Security before the age of 22.
Does retired mean a certain age, example 65, or can they have taken early retirement?
They could have taken early retirement. Yes. Retirement is retirement, even if it's early retirement.
Okay, going back to the question we asked earlier about the guardian versus the parent.
Mhm.
What about a guardian? This particular person said she is her aunt and she is her guardian. Her mother is not in the picture. Can this adult child draw off of her record? I'm assuming is the question.
Okay. I wonder, did she adopt the child? That's a little bit of a different, yeah, there's some circumstances in which the child can and draw a benefit from the adult. If the parent is not in the picture, yeah, I would have to do a little research on that one, on that question.
Okay.
Someone asked about making an appointment to talk to someone about their child's disability, age, situation to help determine the best way to move ahead and receive benefits. And wouldn't they just reach out to you?
Absolutely, they can.
Okay, and LEAP is free. I just want to make that clear for everybody.
Okay, so yes and no. So it just depends on the situation. We could talk about it when people reach out.
Okay,
It depends on the individual situation. Yes.
okay.
Barb, did we touch on about a minor child who was disabled and how to get SSI and how it is calculated? So under the age of 18.
So under the age of 18, remember that child, so if their parent or parents are working and there's other income in the household, some of that income is deemed to the child. So there's a whole calculation to determine if the income that is deemed to that child that income determines whether that child is eligible or not. Because it's reasonable to assume that a parent is going to take care of a child under 18 with some of their income. Now, if the parent themselves doesn't have any income and they're not working, then it becomes like then the child is absolutely eligible for the SSI because there's no earned income to deem to them, if that makes sense.
Here's a question about Medicaid and Medicare. My son was on Medicaid and they put him on Medicare. They said he had to go on Medicare because he worked 4 quarters. Why does this happen?
Okay.
He was only 22 when this happened. Then they wanted to charge him a monthly fee until they determined he was low income, and now Medicaid pays for his Medicare
Okay.
premium.
The short answer to that question is Medicaid always wants to be the payer of last resort. They want you to utilize any other health insurance that you're eligible for. They want a person to utilize and any resource or assets to utilize to pay for your health insurance before you access Medicaid. So the reason that your child, when they had enough credits of coverage to transfer to Medicare, Medicaid said, well, access Medicare first. And then if there's anything left over and you're still eligible, then we'll pay for it. So he would have had to go on Medicare. That Medicare would have became his first payer of any health insurance. Now, because the child must be low income, the state is paying the Part B premium that would usually come out of their Title II check. I'm not sure what benefit they're receiving. It could be a SSDAC benefit, but it sounds like it's according to work credit, so it's probably a SSDI benefit. And so the state would pay that Part B premium that they would have to pay that usually comes out their check. I hope that answered the question.
The next question is, did you say there was a 20,000 income exception for MBIWD?
A 20,000 income disregard that can be applied to help a person become eligible for Medicaid buy-in for workers with disabilities, yes.
In the Cleveland area, does anyone have the name of a lawyer advocate that they have worked with to navigate this adult system of benefits? Would you suggest they contact you first?
I mean, you can contact me. I don't have any lawyers that I speak with. Absolutely, if the person is willing, they can contact me.
Okay. For SNAP benefits, what ongoing paperwork requirements are there? Do you have to file anything monthly or more often?
So for SNAP benefits, initially there's an application. You submit an application. You would have to submit proof of income to Job and Family Services, proof of living expenses, proof of resource of assets. If those are basically the things that they're looking for to determine if you're eligible and how much you're eligible for. And usually there's a every 6-month interim report that has to be submitted, and income and resources have to be verified every 6 months.
Okay, we have another question. To apply, do we go to the SS office? Do we need an attorney?
No, you don't. You don't need an attorney to apply.
And I guess they want to know where you apply.
Okay, so you can apply at the Social Security office. And in 1 or 2 ways, you can make an appointment and go directly into the office, or you can call in and ask for a phone appointment. And we at LEAP also assist with that, for helping people apply. And so if you're looking for some support in applying, you can absolutely reach out to us. We're not the only people who do that, I don't believe, but we do offer that service as well.
Another question. My 19-year-old was denied SSI benefits. How long do you have to appeal, and what is the process?
Okay, so if they're denied after the initial application, then they can appeal to the second level. The first level of appeals is called the reconsideration level. You usually get a 60-day window to ask for reconsideration. During that level, a different person would look at the claim and make another decision about the claim. If your child was denied at the reconsideration level, then the third level of appeals would be the ALJ level of appeal, and that's the administrative law judge, and that's where you would go in front of an administrative law judge, present your case, and have that judge make a decision on whether or not the child is eligible for benefits. And then there's also a 4th level appeals, which is sort of like an informal conference where a panel would look at the ALJ's decision if the person was denied and make sure whether or not the decision was proper under law that the judge determined. So there's several levels of appeals. You can appeal all the way up to like almost the Supreme Court if you wanted to. So there's several level appeals when it comes to Social Security benefits. But the second level of appeals, you don't need an attorney and there is a 60-day window.
Barb, is there, I know LEAP covers Northeast Ohio, but what if somebody lived in a different state? How would they finding some services that you offer in their state?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not sure I can answer that one.
I can probably assist. Family to Family has partners all across the country in every state. So if you want to get in touch with me, whoever's out of state, or if you know someone who's out of state, have them email or call me, Amy Clausen, and I'll be able to find them a contact, okay?
We do have more questions, but we want to make sure that you complete a survey, just giving us some input on our program tonight. And you could use that code that is on the screen right now. You just, use your smartphone and put it up to the code, the little square, I don't even know what that's called. And it'll take you right to the survey.
Yeah, it's a QR code. So if
Yeah,
you just,
thanks.
that's okay. If you all just get your smartphone out, touch the camera app on your smartphone, that survey, you just hold it up there and that survey will pick it right up after you touch the link. Trying to make it easy for everybody. It's really important we get your input. And if Barbara, how much more time do you want to spend? It's 8:32. We can take another 1 or 2 questions, or we can call it a night. And I think Barbara is
No,
gone.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Oh, good. You were taking a break.
Yeah. I mean, if we have 1 or 2, I guess I could take 1 or 2 more. Yeah.
That would be nice. Laurie, Wendy, what do you have for?
I'm just skimming through.
Yeah,
There's
a
so
lot of
many.
thank yous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone said,
Oh,
ahead.
someone said this is by far the best, most informative SSI presentation. So thank you, Barb.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Very-
Go ahead,
How can I
Laurie.
complete the survey? I put the link to the survey in the chat too, Sarah. So if you look, there's a link. If you can't get the QR code, there's a link right there. I think we've hit all the questions that I can see. I mean, there were a lot, so I hope we hit everybody's. I'm sorry.
Okay, great.
Oh, well, good. Thank you all so much. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Barbara was wonderful. It's a hard topic.
Yeah.
Lots of information. Again, I encourage everybody to hear it again, listen to the recording more than once. Barbara, you were wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you
I'm gonna,
for having me.
good. Well, everyone have a good night. I'm going to bid everyone adieu now. Thank you. Good night.